Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Friday night, the show, the Emily Pearl show. Okay, all right then. So, we have a very exciting, different kind of presentation that we're going to give tonight. And let me just type in it. Chat box workers. I want to say hello to everyone. Welcome to our show. Get that in there so all the platforms can display that right quick. Okay, there goes the 901 show. My computer has been slow this evening. There go our YouTube channel, TPS Productions. And there goes the Emily Pearl Show platform. And there goes, again, the 901 show platform. And LinkedIn doesn't show on here in the studio, but it does show on their platforms as well as like Rumble. Doesn't show in here. All right, so I'm going to put the TPS Productions back up there. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Okay, so I'm not going to ask what you guys been doing because Tim and I just had our politics show last night, and Sybil, I've been kind of in touch with you, kind of know nothing happened. I have 3 important announcements that I want to make. We said that we were going to try to do politics, but I have to make this announcement. But before I make that, I want to tell everybody, look, if you have an Amazon Prime subscription where you also watch TV channels on, be sure to go into your settings, look at your subscriptions, go in there under manage your subscriptions, under settings on your Amazon Prime account, and look and see what they are charging you for the extra channels that you added on, like HBO, BritBox, AMC, Disney, or any of those. Because what Jeff Bezos in Amazon has done, and I believe this is due to the war, because as you know, hey Jen, how you doing?
Well,
Uh,
hello.
yeah, as you know,
Hi.
Jeff Bezos, he is a supporter of Israel, and his business funds help fund the war, help funds Israel, and Israel has been accused of humanitarian criminal war crimes against humanity. So what he has done, since they can't get funds from the United States government anymore, and the European countries are not funding them, including the UK anymore, he has sneaked in an increase on subscriptions without even notifying people.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I canceled 3 of my channels today because they were like at $7.99 a month, and I went in there to cancel Stars because I just did it on a 7-day trial just to watch something that I wanted to watch, which is a series, right? And so, hey, Sandra. So
Hi, Sandra.
I went in there to cancel it and happened to see all 3 of my subscriptions, that my regular ones that I've had for the past year at least, had gone up to like 11.99, 12. I'm like, what the hey? And
How
so
much was it?
they were like $7 and $8 a month.
Oh,
So I
wow.
canceled all 3 of them. Indeed, I did. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Because I am not, yeah, without notifying people. I canceled all 3 of them. And as I had mentioned to y'all last month, that Amazon Prime had started sneaking in commercials because they're getting funds from companies by showing their commercials. And
Oh,
when I signed up for Amazon Prime 5 years ago, maybe um, longer than that, it was always ad free, no commercials ever. Then when I
oh,
called last month, she claims that it was trying to be always that way, because I remember that last year after COVID, they did offer, they did say that they were going to start showing ads, right? But it was $2.99 a month. I said, okay, I don't want to watch any commercials. I'll pay $2.99 a month. So I had been doing that for about a year until last month. Last
Oh,
month, I was watching one of my series and up popped the commercial. I told y'all about that. So I
yeah,
called,
I remember.
mhm. So I called them, and then she gonna try to claim that it had been that way all the time. I was like, no, it has not been, because I know I've been watching. And so I canceled. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Since y'all gonna show commercials anyway, why am I paying you $2.99 a month not to see commercials? So you just give me my money back. I said, you just go ahead and show your commercials. I don't want to pay $2.99 for ad free, and you still showing ads, because it does not serve my purpose. So I canceled that. So go into your Amazon Prime account, those of you who have it, and cancel. I mean, check your stuff. Just follow up on your stuff, because they're taking money from you without you knowing about it. Okay, my second important announcement for tonight is I saw on the news this morning, and Tim, I know you got a comment on this, because I told everybody 2 years ago, almost three now, when Israel attacked and invaded Gaza and did its war on Gaza, that this was going to happen. I predicted this more than 2 years ago. I heard it on the news this morning. An automatic military draft will begin in December of this year. And they're running ads showing it. And they're also running ads recruiting for all branches of the service. Commercials. So, and this one that said about the automatic military draft will begin in December was signed by, up under the bottom, Secretary of War, not Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War. Oh, okay, Jen watching from her front porch. All right, it's nice.
Yeah.
Imagine. And so, anyway, what that tells me is two things. Number one, I was correct. I knew that it's going to happen, right? Number two, it tells me that this war with Iran and the Middle East is going to be going on at least through December, if not past that. And I had already told y'all last month that it would last more than a year, didn't I? Did I not?
You sure did. You have great insight.
Tim, what do you think about that?
Number one thing, my children ain't going. They're not
I
going.
know, I know,
So
right? I know.
I
And I
don't care
think
what they
that
say.
every politician, every Republican politician, even Byron, President Trump's son is 18, so he
Yeah,
should be automatically drafted to go
Yeah, but I
into.
think he has some kind of excuse.
They always
They
going to have an excuse. All the politicians going to make sure that their children and grandchildren have
He-
excuses, right?
yeah. But here's the first thing, and this is
yeah.
what people are overlooking. This is an illegal war. This war was not signed out by Congress. Therefore,
Hmm.
your children can't be brought up in the charges if the war is not real.
Well, of course, they're probably going to try to put him in jail like they did Muhammad Ali, you know. So everybody that refused will probably be, they're going to
They
issue a
ain't got
warrant
enough
for their
room for it.
arrest.
They ain't got enough room for everybody that's gonna refuse. Nobody's
True.
sending their child to that.
That's right.
I'd
That's
rather for
right.
my children to be AWOL than to be sent to be killed.
That's
Nah,
right. That's right.
nah.
Absolutely. Okay. So, as I said, we have a very extraordinary video that I'd like for y'all to watch tonight. It's
Oh,
about 20
yeah.
minutes long. Jen and Sandra, I think y'all are going to be very interested in this. I know when I found it, I was interested in it. Tim, you'll be interested in it. And Sybil, you'll be surprised at it. Now, what I do want to say is that it's kind of unorthodox from what we normally show on a Friday night show because it has to do with religion. Okay. And what I would like to say before this video shows is that it it gives me, I'm always talking about two sides of the story. It gives me, and I've done a lot of research on different types of religion as well as Christianity. But this one gave me an insight to most of it. I did not know about it. There was one book of the Bible that I do know about that I read, which is the book of Enoch. But remember, I told you that there were 12 missing books of the Bible. But on this video, I found out that there are 20 missing books of the Bible. And I just want to say that watching it did not affect my faith nor my belief and what I stand for. So let's just go and get right on into it. Everybody get comfortable. Go get your popcorn, get your pillow, get your TJ.
Right.
Sandra, I get your potato chips, whatever you need, because y'all are going to enjoy this. And to the team, we will be off screen, so y'all can get as comfortable as you want. Sybil, if you have to get up and take a break during the video, that's fine. Same
Yeah,
for
I'll
you too.
I'll stretch out on the couch and watch it.
Okay. All right, y'all. I hope y'all enjoy. Here we go.
A truth that shakes the foundations of what we've been taught. A truth that leads us back, not to Europe, not to the halls of Rome, but to Africa, to Ethiopia.
What if the Bible we read today leaves out the final words Jesus spoke after rising from the dead? For 2,000 years, Christianity has been built on a single story. Jesus died, rose from the grave, appeared briefly to his followers, and ascended to heaven. The end. But in the isolated monasteries of Ethiopia, ancient monks preserved writings the rest of the world never saw. Texts that describe what Jesus taught during the 40 days between resurrection and heaven.
They saw Jesus resurrected. Like, there's something different that goes on there. That they're like, this is a miracle, right? Dead people don't usually rise from the dead.
These are not footnotes. These are entire books filled with prophecies, warnings, and teachings so powerful that Rome refused to let them survive. Tonight, we open those forbidden pages and discover what Jesus really said after defeating death. The mystery buried in Ethiopia. While most Christians read from a Bible containing 66 books, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has preserved something far older. A sacred canon of 88 books written in Ge'ez, one of the world's most ancient languages. These aren't recent additions or questionable fragments. These are complete texts, meticulously copied by hand across centuries, protected by monks who believed they were guarding the purest voice of Christ himself.
This is a rare Ethiopian Orthodox Bible manuscript, handwritten in Ethiopia's sacred liturgical language, Ge'ez.
Among these hidden writings is a text called the Book of the Covenant, a document that Ethiopian tradition claims records the actual words Jesus spoke to his disciples after defeating death. Not symbolic parables, not distant metaphors, direct teachings, final instructions, sacred warnings about what was to come. In 325 AD, the First Council of Nicaea gathered under Roman Emperor Constantine the Great to address key theological disputes within Christianity. It was a political assembly as much as a spiritual one. The texts that made the cut.
A popular and oft-repeated myth is that Constantine and the Church Fathers decided which books would become biblical canon and which books wouldn't make the cut.
Those that supported a centralized church hierarchy, clear doctrines, and controllable narratives were affirmed. The texts that didn't, mystical writings filled with visions, spiritual warfare, and teachings suggesting believers could connect directly with God, with no priest, no building, no institution required, were left outside the emerging consensus. Ethiopia, isolated by mountains and deserts, never attended that council. And so, while Rome narrowed the scriptures, Ethiopia kept everything.
Sacred art that take you and I directly to the devotion of the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition. That encounter makes Ethiopia arguably the first Christian nation outside the early church.
What they preserved would challenge the very foundations of modern Christianity as we know it today, the hidden words of the living Christ. According to Ethiopian sacred writings, Jesus did not simply appear and disappear after his resurrection. Ethiopian tradition says that he stayed on earth for 40 complete days, moving between the physical and spiritual worlds, preparing his followers for a mission meant to outlive empires. During this period, he shared what these texts call the heavenly scrolls, hidden wisdom about the nature of reality, the human soul, and the approaching darkness. He taught them that death was not the true enemy. Spiritual blindness was. This single teaching reshaped everything his followers believed about salvation. It was not about avoiding death. It was about waking up to life while still breathing. One of the most radical teachings linked to Jesus in these Ethiopian texts focuses on where God truly lives. According to these traditions, Jesus told his disciples, "You build temples of stone and gold, but the real temple lives within you. Every heart that loves is a sanctuary. Every act of kindness is a prayer made flesh." This was not a message Rome wanted spread. An inner temple cannot be taxed. A personal bond with God cannot be controlled. So these words were hidden, but in Ethiopia, they endured. The implications are overwhelming.
This is the real deal, a piece of Ethiopia's Christian heritage preserved in the very language the church has guarded for centuries.
If the divine truly lives within every person, then the entire system of organized religion, with its gatekeepers, its hierarchies, and its demands for obedience, becomes unnecessary, perhaps even a barrier. The Ethiopian texts record what feels like an unsettling prophecy for our age. These writings suggest Jesus warned his disciples that one day people would shout his name in the streets while their hearts stayed empty. They would raise towering churches but forget the simplicity of love. According to these traditions, "Blessed are those who suffer for my name, not in word, but in silence. For I walk with the forgotten, the quiet believers whose faith needs no audience." Ethiopian scholars say he predicted false leaders would wear robes of purity while consuming the poor, that his teachings would be reshaped into tools of power, that families would break apart, lies would be called truth, and darkness would spread when people no longer recognized his voice. Reading these passages today feels less like ancient history and more like a mirror reflecting our modern world. Think about it. How often have we seen religious leaders exposed in scandals while preaching righteousness? How many wars have been fought in Christ's name? How much wealth has been gathered by churches while their congregations struggle? If these texts are genuine, Jesus foresaw it all. Perhaps the most beautiful teaching in these hidden texts is this line preserved in Ethiopian tradition: "Let your silence speak louder than sermons. Let your body become a living prayer." This teaching changes everything. Faith is not about performing rituals or memorizing scripture. It is about turning every breath, every action, every moment into an offering of love. This is a Jesus who speaks not from a throne, but from the wilderness, not through institutions, but through the human heart itself. The Ethiopian texts describe a spirituality that is deeply personal, radically simple, and completely disruptive to organized power. And for centuries, only Ethiopia remembered these words, or so their tradition claims, the prophecies of the forgotten fire. The Ethiopian scriptures hold a prophecy that feels almost uncannily relevant today. According to these texts, Jesus told his disciples that when organized religion grows corrupt and empty, his Spirit will rise again, not from palaces or cathedrals, but from deserts, from mountains, and from the children of those society has enslaved and forgotten. These traditions record him saying, "My voice will return through those the powerful ignore." Truth will come not from golden pulpits, but from broken hearts that still believe. This completely reverses the structure of institutional Christianity. It suggests that the closest thing to God's truth might not be found in the Vatican or mega-ministries, but in the quiet faith of the forgotten, in homeless shelters, in prisons, and in the homes of single mothers working 3 jobs to survive. Perhaps the voice of Christ has always been there on the margins, waiting for the world to pause and listen. Before his ascension, according to Ethiopian tradition, Jesus spoke of a coming fire, not one that destroys the earth, but one that burns away pride, greed, and illusion. These texts record him saying, "I am the seed and the sword. I will return, and my fire will awaken those who sleep in darkness." This fire, Ethiopian theologians explain, is the fire of spiritual awakening. It strips away everything false until only truth remains. It burns not the world, but the lies we tell ourselves, the masks we wear, and the idols we worship. In a world drowning in materialism, addiction, and spiritual emptiness, this prophecy feels less like ancient mysticism and more like a roadmap for our times. Perhaps the return of Christ has nothing to do with the sky splitting open, and everything to do with people finally waking up to the truth that has been inside them all along. Ethiopia's unique history explains how these texts survived when so many others were destroyed. The country became Christian in the 4th century, before Rome officially did. It was never conquered by European colonizers during the age of imperialism. Its faith developed independently, shaped not by political councils, but by desert monks and mystical practices. While Western Christianity became entangled with empire, with Constantine, with crusades, and with colonization, Ethiopia's faith remained wild, uncontrolled, and deeply spiritual. And so, the mystical teachings that Rome feared, the angels, the spiritual battles, and the direct encounters with the divine, all of this remained alive in Ethiopian Christianity. The forgotten fire never went out. It simply waited in the highlands, in ancient monasteries where monks still pray in languages most of the world has forgotten. The lost gospel of peace. The version of Christianity most people know centers on a single brutal image. Jesus nailed to a cross, suffering and dying for humanity's sins.
Many people have talked about these missing years and have tried to speculate about what Jesus might have done during that time.
But deep within Ethiopian monasteries lies another narrative entirely, one found in what some scholars call the Gospel of Peace. This text tells a radically different story. Ethiopian tradition claims that Jesus was never crucified. Now, before dismissing this outright, consider what we're actually being told here. This isn't a modern conspiracy theory. This is an ancient Christian tradition preserved by one of the oldest Christian churches in the world. According to this gospel tradition, when the authorities came to arrest him, Jesus, following the example of the prophets before him, withdrew into the wilderness. He did not submit to execution. He did not become a martyr. Instead, Ethiopian texts suggest he continued teaching his disciples about healing, purity, and living in harmony with God's creation. He spoke with what these traditions called the angels of air and water, teaching that the earth itself was sacred. Over time, his disappearance was misunderstood. Stories changed as they passed through different cultures, different languages, different political contexts, and eventually the narrative of crucifixion took root. Not necessarily because it was true, but because it served a purpose. Ethiopian theologians have long argued that the crucifixion story served the Roman Empire's purposes perfectly. Think about it. A dying savior who suffered and obeyed reinforced submission to authority. It made suffering a virtue. It taught people to accept their lot in life and wait for rewards in heaven. A living teacher who encouraged spiritual freedom and direct connection with God threatened the entire power structure. At the Council of Nicaea, church leaders under Roman control selected texts that emphasized sacrifice, suffering, and the need for institutional salvation through the church. Ethiopia, which never answered to Rome, kept teaching about Yeshua, the healer, a Jesus whose mission was not to die, but to show humanity how to truly live. In the Ethiopian Gospel of Peace tradition, Jesus teaches his followers to purify both body and soul through fasting, prayer, and immersion in natural waters. He calls the earth Mother and the sun Father. He teaches that all of nature is connected to the divine, and that true freedom comes not from belief in his death, but from learning to live with gentleness, truth, and love. This Jesus doesn't demand worship. He invites transformation. He doesn't ask people to believe the right things. He asks them to become the right things: compassionate, honest, connected to the earth and to each other. Modern historians often dismiss this narrative because Roman records don't support it. But Ethiopian scholars point out something crucial. Their land became Christian before Rome did. Their language, Ge'ez, is one of the oldest in the world, and archaeological discoveries in places like Aksum and Yeha show that Christianity developed in Ethiopia on a completely independent path. Even the Dead Sea Scrolls reveal that groups like the Essenes, who practiced healing, lived simply, and avoided violence, existed during Jesus' time, and held beliefs remarkably similar to what the Ethiopian texts describe. Perhaps they weren't heretics after all. Perhaps they were protecting the original message, a message about healing and awakening, not suffering and death. The question isn't whether we can prove this story true. The question is what it reveals about the diversity of early Christianity before Rome standardized everything. Ethiopia, guardian of the true word. Ethiopia stands alone in history. While nearly every nation in Africa fell to European colonization, Ethiopia remained free. This wasn't luck. It was fierce resistance, strategic wisdom, and perhaps divine protection. And that independence preserved something far more valuable than land. It protected one of the purest streams of Christianity itself. When European missionaries arrived in other parts of Africa, they brought their Bibles and their beliefs. They decided what was scripture and what was heresy. But in Ethiopia, Christianity was already ancient, already established, already complete. The Ethiopians looked at these newcomers and their thin Bibles and essentially said, "We've been Christian longer than you have. We know what we're doing." The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church traces its lineage back 3,000 years to the union of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Their son, Menelik I, according to tradition, brought the Ark of the Covenant to Ethiopia, where many believe it remains hidden to this day in the ancient city of Aksum. When Christianity arrived in Ethiopia in the 4th century, it didn't come as conquest. It came as recognition, as if the nation had been waiting for a truth it already sensed in its bones. By the 6th century, travelers like Cosmas Indicopleustes wrote that Ethiopia was not just Christian. It was a sanctuary for persecuted believers fleeing Roman violence. Ethiopia became the guardian of texts, traditions, and teachings that would have been lost everywhere else. While Western Bibles were stripped down to 66 books, Ethiopia preserved 88. Among these additional texts are the Book of Enoch, containing visions of angels, demons, and the structure of heaven itself; the Book of Jubilees, offering detailed accounts of creation and sacred law. The Didaskalia, preserving Jesus' practical teachings on living with integrity. And the Book of the Covenant, recording his final words after the resurrection. These aren't random additions cobbled together by medieval monks. They are ancient sacred texts consistent with the earliest Christian traditions and written in one of the world's oldest languages. They were removed from Western Bibles not because they were false, but because they were dangerous to institutional control. They spoke of direct mystical experience, of angels and visions, of a faith that didn't need buildings or priests to survive. In the remote highlands of Ethiopia, inside monasteries balanced on cliffs and carved directly into rock, monks have devoted centuries to one holy task: copying the words of Christ by hand. Not for authority, not for wealth, not for praise, but for survival. They believed that if even a single generation failed to preserve the true teachings, the light would disappear forever. So they prayed, they fasted, and they copied each letter with devotion, treating every word as if it carried the breath of God himself. And because of them, we are still able to reach these traditions today. Whether you see these writings as literally factual or deeply symbolic, one thing cannot be denied. They reflect a form of Christianity that endured beyond imperial control, a Christianity of the edges, of the mountains, of mystics who never submitted to Rome. The world shaped its Christianity on Rome's base, on hierarchy, authority, and the story of a dying God who demands submission. But in Ethiopia, a different story lived on, a story of a living Christ who taught that the kingdom of God exists not in structures, but in hearts, not in ceremonies, but in love, not in dominance, but in the quiet, unbreakable faith of those the world ignores. The Ethiopian writings close with this promise attributed to Jesus: I am the seed and the sword. I will return. Maybe that return has nothing to do with skies opening or angels arriving with trumpets. Maybe it means this: that the true voice of Christ, stripped of politics, stripped of empire, stripped of all that is false, has been waiting all along in the places we stopped searching. In the silence of monks who never lost faith, in the mountains of a nation that never bowed, in the pages of a Bible the world tried to erase. The forgotten flame never died. It simply waited for the moment when humanity would be ready to listen again. And maybe that moment is now. What do you think? Could Ethiopia truly safeguard lost teachings that transform how we understand Christianity? Or are these powerful legends from an ancient culture trying to protect its distinct identity? The truth is, we may never know with total certainty. But maybe that isn't the point. Maybe the real question is what these writings reveal about the diversity and depth of early Christian thought before it was standardized and controlled. Share your thoughts in the comments below. This is a discussion worth having. If this story inspired you or challenged you, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more hidden histories the world doesn't want you to see. The truth has always existed, preserved in forgotten languages and guarded by faithful hands. Sometimes it simply takes 2,000 years to uncover it again.
All right, I'm bringing everybody back into the studio now, and we're going to see what Tim and Sybil thought about it. I'll tell you what I thought about it first. As you know, when I ended the show last Friday night, I actually ended up talking about the resurrection of Jesus, and I had to stop myself before I started preaching. And so that veered me to continue my research. But I just want to share this story about Ethiopia. Ethiopia is in Africa, so it's Egypt. A lot of people don't know that Egypt is in Africa, but Africa was the first place that actually birthed man and woman. And people don't believe that because they what? They taught us wrong, right? But at any rate, when I was in my late 20s or maybe early 30s, I met an Ethiopian. In fact, I dated an Ethiopian. I met him at Christian Brothers College. His name was Simon Geta Selassie. I will never ever forget his name. And during that time, we had various discussions, and he would talk about the scriptures. And he told me, I can remember him telling me, no, it was more books to the Bible than uh, that. He said, you people, because he Africans do not consider themselves as African Americans. They do not consider themselves as any other countrymen other than Africans. And I can remember him trying to tell me all about that, but I wasn't interested in hearing about stuff like that then. I was young, right? But as I got older, of course, and went through trials and tribulations myself, and hospitalizations, and going through the angels being at my bedside and healing me, bringing me back, to good health. All of these things began to lay on my mind, my consciousness, made me wake up and begin to think and think back and wonder and put things together. And so that's why I had to continue my research from last Friday night, because I was telling y'all last Friday night, I said, okay, they say, that he died, but did he die? That was my question. I said, because when they put him in the tomb, the angels went straight in there with him after everyone was gone. The angels was always by his side. So we know that they healed his body because he didn't have any scars when he came out. We know that if he did lose consciousness or go into a coma, they brought him back to life and made him well again. So it does make you think about, is it true or is it not true? But it does not waver my faith in Jesus Christ, because we always say he lives, he still lives. Jesus Christ is not dead, he is still alive. We've always said that, and I still say that. So, Sybil, let's get your take on what you just saw.
I watched all of it, but I had no audio, so I don't have a clue what anybody said in that video. And then there was some things to read, and it flashed like a microsecond. I couldn't even read it. So,
well, hold on just a minute. Tim, could you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay. So it means
I
it's
did
your
not have any
phone.
sound. It must be. Didn't have
So
any
you have
sound.
because you can hear me now.
Yes, I can, but I could not hear anything on the video when you
Well,
played
that's
it.
probably because you have your media sound off on your phone, because you're on your phone and not on your computer. That's what happened.
You know what? It might have went off on its own. You know how those things do in the back office of your phone.
Yeah.
I'll have to make sure when
You
until I
can
get my
replay
computer
the.
fixed.
No, you don't have to wait that long. All you got to do is go to the Emily Pearl Show page when you get off of the show tonight and click on the link and click on the show, and you'll be able to hear
Okay.
it then. Okay?
I think you're right. The media probably was down, and I didn't
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah, that's
So
all.
therefore, in the future, I'll have to make sure I check my media before I come into the show.
Okay.
Make sure it's not off accidentally.
Right. Okay. Tim,
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yes.
what do you think about that?
I just being honest, I've always had questions I've
Yeah,
always had questions. I've always been that type of kid or person.
yeah.
Um, I like I say, I have King James version of the Bible, and I also have an Ethiopian Bible.
All right.
Uh, to quote one of the ones that's missing out of King James is Enoch.
Enoch. Yeah.
So uh, a lot of questions are being answered as I get older and wiser.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think I'm more on the spiritual side the older I get versus the religious side.
And that
Um,
is what Jesus asked us to just be spiritual.
yeah,
He
yeah,
didn't ask
because
us to be uh, a traditional religion or anything
yeah,
like that.
yeah, and then you have to ask yourself this question. He also said, "Be wary of false prophets." That
Yeah.
could be even the people that put the Bible out.
Well, I told y'all King James is the one that put the Bible out. That's why it's named after him
And we know
for
what his
for the
lifestyle was.
for the West. Yes,
Hmm.
of course.
Hmm.
They kings were ruthless. They were
Hmm.
warmongers. They used slaves. They had slaves. They worked
Hmm.
people. Didn't pay
Hmm.
them. They beat people. They imprisoned
Hmm.
people. They cut off heads. Yeah, we know how kings were back in those days, and definitely kings of England. And King James was the king of England.
Yeah, it was a lot going on. It's a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's more so what they didn't write. I think.
Well, yeah, it's like the author of the video said that, and I'll begin with the Romans.
Yeah.
When Jesus was preaching during that time and educating people about the value of themselves.
Yeah.
Of course, the Romans felt that as a threat because people would refuse to work. People did not want to be slaves anymore. People
Yeah.
wanted to know how to read and write. And even as far as the 1800s, in our time, the masters of the slaves here in the United States, in the Americas, did not want the slaves to know how to read or write. Why? Because they would learn too much. And they would be educated. They would they would have an awareness, and they could find their own spirituality and not be slaves under the whip. So yeah, I believe it. I definitely, a lot of it is true.
Yeah.
Definitely. So that was unorthodox civil. I'm so sorry that you did not hear that. But
I
like I
can replay it.
yes, please replay the show because you don't have to. We're not I'm not asking you to agree with it. I just think it's something that is interesting that everyone, no matter your race, your culture, your religion, where are you from, your geographic location, your political view, or whatever, I just think it's a very interesting piece to watch.
Yeah. And you know where a lot of the truth lies? Up under
Mhm.
the Vatican.
Oh, look, let me tell you. And the Vatican has this vault in Rome where all of the precious and sacred items
Hmm.
have been stolen from countries
Hmm.
and tribes of people.
Hmm.
Everything, anything having to do with Jesus has been always stolen. In fact, wars, the Crusaders,
Hmm.
they would steal. They murdered and killed and stole in the name of Christianity from
Hmm.
countries, and the jewels, the statues, just anything of,
Art.
of art, definitely art, uh, and writings, scrolls. All
Hmm.
of those things were stolen, and guess where they are? They are in the secret vault of the Vatican in Rome,
Yeah.
invisible.
Yeah.
I mean, only allowed to be viewed by those of power and money, or certain hierarchy of religious stature.
Yeah.
You can't, we can't get an invitation to go
No.
into the secret vault.
No.
But this video said that is the exact opposite of what Jesus wanted for everyone. He said that we, the poor, the oppressed, the ones that are spiritual, are the ones that are overlooked, mistreated, imprisoned. He said, but it's in the prisons where you find people that do come into that spirituality. And that's true. Because a lot of people that go to prison, when they come out, they do come out changed with a new outlook. Not all of them, but a good majority of them do. And a lot of them come out with the Muslim faith. Uh, you've seen that happen a lot. But as we grow older, for people like me and Sybil, Tim, because you
Mhm.
got some more years to go,
Mhm.
we become a lot wiser. And I'm one I haven't always been spiritual. I've been religious for the most of my life because I was a church musician.
Yeah.
And there is a big, huge difference. Just let me share this. And I can share this with you now because I am 76 years old. Now I've learned the difference. There's a big difference in being religious
Mhm.
than being spiritual. It's just like oil and water. They don't mix. You can't mix them. So they're totally opposite. And so now I am in my spiritual stage of my life, and I could not be happier. And Tim, you've shared with me that you're coming into your spiritual
Yeah.
side of your life.
Yeah.
Okay, Jen says, she getting on politics. She said it was my opinion that Trump has already breached the Vatican vault. Uh-uh. Not since Pope Leo is there. Pope Leo, he is. Did y'all know that Trump recently threatened Pope Leo
Yeah.
in a social media post?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now how you gonna threaten the Pope?
Yeah.
So he finna send somebody to assassinate the Pope. That's just crazy. That's just really, the man has really lost all cognitive ability because you just don't I mean, even if you were to think something like that, you
Don't
don't do
say
it
it.
in public, right?
Right.
So no,
It's all
Jen, Trump has not gone anywhere near the Vatican. The other Pope that was there that just left, it was his first term, and he wasn't even studying about, you know, uh, religion or Christianity or even trying to mess with the Pope or anything. It wasn't until this term that he wanted to mess with the Vatican and mess with the Pope. So, but no, he's not getting in there. While Pope
Mhm.
Leo's in there, I can tell you that much right now.
Mhm.
Because I don't know what kind of spiritual power those cardinals have that's protecting that Vatican and the Pope. So if Trump is a demon, then that's the last place he want to be because it'll be too much spiritual and angelic power around that place. And
That's
you don't want the angels coming after you. I'm telling you that right now.
mhm.
All right, closing remarks, Sybil.
well. It was quite an interesting show, and wouldn't be the same without you and Tim. And I want to thank Jenny and Sandra and all
Yes,
60 listeners
yes.
that tuned in. The
Actually,
audience.
it's 61 now. Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Jen and Sandra. Yes, the avid, loyal fans of our show, both of them. Go ahead, Sybil.
That's it. I really enjoyed it. So everybody tune in next Friday and see what goes on. Never
Yes.
can tell what gonna see on the Emily Pearl show.
And by the way, that 61 number, that's only from our YouTube channel. That does not include Facebook.
Oh
LinkedIn.
yeah, still a lot
One,
more.
but
Yeah.
yeah, the only ones that show up here is our YouTube channel. And I don't know why Facebook doesn't do it, but that's their thing. They do what they want to do. It's their business. They run their business the way they want to run it, right? But these viewers right here from our YouTube subscribers. And we thank y'all for subscribing and please continue to. And please share our YouTube channel so that others can subscribe because y'all know we do some pretty interesting things around here. And because our politics show also shows on our YouTube channel. Closing remarks, Tim.
Yeah, look, I guess my generation and generation of older, I would encourage you to go down a couple of rabbit holes, and because we are in the age of information, we have more access than we ever had to information. So
Yes.
don't just sit back and let that all of that knowledge that you could uh, uh, partake go to waste, because
Yeah.
now it's nothing like it used to be.
Find out for yourself.
And if you seek, you shall find.
Amen to that. All right, then. And that's all I got to say, except for I end the show, Friday night show, with most of the time now. Instead of saying the old monologue that I said for 13 years, I always say this. If you don't know what the 7 deadly sins are, please Google them. After you Google them, please read each one to find out what they are and what they mean. And avoid them at all costs. Because if you do that, you'll end up being one of the best people in the whole wide world. And you will be the best person for your own self. And you will feel so unburdened, so free, so peaceful. And even if you're poor, and everything's getting so high. Yeah, it's hard for everybody. I had to put on a crock pot of frozen black eyed peas and one strip of bacon. It's in my crock pot right now, ready for me to eat after the show. Just cut down, you know. Yeah, my money is low, but guess what? I'm still happy. And that's what Jesus wanted for us. He don't want us suffering, beaten, tired, you know. So you got a little bit to eat, yeah, but you still be happy. You're not eating what you would have a taste for, but still be happy. Okay? With 7 deadly sins, avoid them at all costs. And we will see y'all next week, Thursday night, on Pearl's Politics. No telling what'll be going on by then in politics and war. And then, of course, on following Friday night, we'll be back with another Friday night, the Emily Pearl Show, with our co-hosts of the Moses, Selma Marie Presley. Hopefully, she won't be filming anywhere. You know, she's been in about 99 films. And then, of course, the heartbeat of the South, every beat of my heart, my son, Tim Harrington. And we wouldn't be able to do any of this without our fantastic audience. Let's give them a round of applause, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. We went almost the whole hour tonight, but I wanted y'all to see that video. It was the buzz, wasn't it? All right. Everybody say good night. Good night, y'all. We love
Right.
you.
Hey.
Bye.